Getting close.
Keep going, keep going.
All right.
There you go.
Hi. Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Kristen Thompson. I'm the Advancement Director at Landmark Conservancy. Here again with Rick Remington, and I just want to talk to you a little bit about who we are and what we do, because we're kind of the new kid in town here. So Landmark Conservancy is a land trust. We're an accredited nonprofit. And our mission is land protection. Our mission is to conserve the natural legacy of Wisconsin for everyone, forever. The fact that we're nationally accredited means that we adhere to high standards with regard to finance, ethics, governance, and lasting stewardship of land. And I want to just say a minute, a bit about what that means, because when we agree to protect property, we do so oftentimes in a legal document called a conservation easement. We do it sometimes through a land purchase, like what we are endeavoring to do with the Pine Coulee. And stewardship means that we need to demonstrate that we have financial reserves in the form of endowments to prove to the community and our stakeholders that we're going to be here in, 5 and 10 and 50 and 100 years, that we will be around in perpetuity to be good stewards of the land that we have agreed to protect. And so each time we take on new obligations, we plan for that. And we certainly don't have the level of endowment that we can run our whole organization upon, but we do strive to invest at the level for that kind of required annual stewardship and defense of protected land. And we also have legal insurance for that. So you can see this map. We work in 20 counties. There's 10 of us across 2 offices. And our main office is located in Menominee. We also have a couple of staff up in Bayfield. And so most of our projects are private conservation projects, the blue dots on the map. And those are what I talked about with the conservation easement. It's a legal document that goes with the title of the land, and it will transfer to subsequent owners, second and third and so forth, generations of owners. Each year we monitor those properties to make sure that the conservation values are being upheld. The properties are not typically allowed to be subdivided, or in cases of really large properties, like in the hundreds of acres, there may be unallowed subdivision once, perhaps. We have 100 projects with public access. Some of these might be like a trail easement, so we don't have 100 nature preserves. We have actually 24. So those yellow dots are the public access, and then we have our nature preserves. How many of you have heard of the Devil's Punch Bowl in Menominee? That's one of our kind of, in this region, one of the more well-known properties. It's only 3 acres, but it's heavily visited, and it's considered by many to be the sort of crown jewel of Menominee, or sort of a landmark for that community. The Brownstone Trail is one that we steward up in the Bayfield area. And then the Telemark Forest Preserve is one of our newest projects and properties. We own about 200 acres near Cable that intersects with the American Birkebeiner Ski Foundation Trail, or the Birkie Ski Trail. And so I guess moving us along to why we're here tonight. Pine Coulee, you've already seen a couple of maps, but just to give you kind of the reference points to what we're talking about tonight. The red is the Pine Coulee, about 76 acres. The green is Magee Park, and then we're right here at Freedom Park tonight. And so about 3 years ago, we were invited into the conversation as a viable partner that could purchase and own the land, because that's what we do. And so we've gone through our processes of due diligence and vetting and so forth, our approvals with our board. We're really excited about the overall trails network, but just to be clear, this is a project that has merits entirely on its own, significant conservation value in its own right. Even if we didn't have such great momentum and traction with the Coulee River Trails Network, this would be a project that Landmark would approve, independently of that. So a little bit about the ecology of the property. There's 8,000 acres that drain through the Coulee, so it's a significant property that filters and drains water right before it gets into the Mississippi River. It's important for water quality. It has really significant and interesting geology, as well as some different variety of habitat, including native prairie and oak savanna, high potential for restoration, as well as just community education about a variety of landscape and habitat. We also, there's a lot of migratory bird habitat as well along the Mississippi Flyway, and so that's important as well. And just a quick note about what it means for high climate resilience. That's been a focus of a lot of our new protection over the past 5 years, and some. But basically what we mean when we say that is there's so much potential for this land to host biodiversity, even as the species composition might change over time. We're at a point in our in the history of our planet where things are changing really quickly. There's a lot of extreme weather events. There's a lot of different changes in temperature and so forth. But the variety of soils and the different kind of micro habitats that exist on a property like this are really important for sustaining biodiversity into the future. And so all of those things combined with the proximity to a community like Prescott and the potential to reach people. We protect a lot of great properties that are also quite remote. And so the proximity to the community here in Prescott, as well as to other towns and even the metro area being not far, is really appealing to us. And so when we were thinking about coming here tonight and really just trying to highlight connectivity between these two properties, we put together this little sketch of what the trail system might look like between these two properties. These are just proposed trail alignments, but just to make it clear, the blue line is the Coulee, where sometimes it's a trickle, sometimes it's more of a creek or a stream, more moving water. But the red, now I'm going to test myself because the key is cut off. I think the red is the mountain bike trails. You can see where the kind of the I guess following the landscape essentially is what the mountain bike trails will do. And then we're also looking at both ADA trail accessibility as well as some more rustic trails to get into some more of the viewing of the sensitive habitat and so forth. So we have a couple of overlooks in mind, and you can go underneath the highway as well as underneath the railway in those spots. So just I guess a little more about where we are in our process. Our board approved purchase of this property last year. We were able to secure a purchase agreement, which is much different than a purchase. We have an agreement with the landowner. Sometimes people get really excited that we have a purchase, but we don't. We just have an agreement that extends through the end of next year, 2024. And then we were really thrilled to secure a significant grant through the state of Wisconsin DNR, which is the Knowles Nelson Stewardship Program fund. So the grant is about half of the appraised value. The grant amount is $461,000. And so that kind of that's when things got real for us, because raising nearly $1 million in a small community is a really, a really significant goal. Raising $500,000 in a small community is also significant, but we're actively pursuing additional public and private grants, as well as different corporate funding sources, and we're making a broad appeal to the community. And so we're hopeful that through, even as a new presence in the community, we're working hard to gain some visibility and trust, and working through interested folks to try to reach the right people that care about these types of opportunities, that are interested in investing in the future of Prescott for both quality of life for families and people in general. There's a lot of economic opportunity with the trail system and the mountain biking opportunity, and the proximity of the nature preserve to the visitor center here. It really just presents a whole host of opportunities for this community to rally around. So we are making steps and working to, we just launched our private fundraising in the community this fall, and have about $20,000 in private donations secured. We have some grant applications pending, and we have a significant federal grant that we're going after in early January as well. And so it's really just a whole kind of mosaic of things we're trying to piece together. And our next request to the community is, we are participating in Giving Tuesday, which maybe you've heard of in the past. If maybe you've heard of Black Friday, it's when people, get up really early and go to shop it and get in line. And I'm not suggesting that anyone here does that or that you should, but some people do. And then there's the Small Business Saturday on the heels of that, and Cyber Monday. And so we're really hoping that at the end of all of those opportunities to spend money, that people might have a little bit left for a great community project. We're participating in Giving Tuesday. Landmark is fundraising for Pine Coulee, and we're hopeful. Largely, our goal is visibility and bringing new people into the fold. And so if you have any kind of regular online interactions, if you use social media, for example, if you want to sign up and get on our email list, we don't send a lot of emails, maybe twice a month. So you can feel free to leave your contact info out on the counter. We've got to sign up. But we'd love to include you in communications about that. And if you spreading the word, you can consider sharing our information on your social media accounts. And we'd love to invite you to make a gift. So with that, we're kind of right at time, but I'd love to answer some questions if you have them, either about Pine Coulee or just generally anything we might have not gotten to yet.
So what happens if you don't make your goal with the 900,000?
Well, we have a commitment to making the goal first and foremost, but we have done a few things in the past with other projects. For example, when we purchased 200 acres up near Cable, the Telemark Forest Preserve, we had a pretty tight timeline, and we were able to secure a bridge loan that extended another 6 months for us to kind of finish, to bring it through. So basically, if we're looking at a shortfall by early next fall, I think we would either look at bridge lending, and or we have a really sympathetic seller. The landowner that we're purchasing from has indicated that he would work with us to adjust the purchase agreement if it comes to that. So we want to get this done so that we can make it available to the public, and we can kind of keep building a trail network and keep partnering and doing all these great things. But if it really gets down to the wire and we're not there yet, we would either do one of those two things or maybe both. Anything else? I just want to make sure I didn't say this when I started because I was trying to kind of make sure I got through everything. But we're really grateful to be partnering with such committed and devoted people here locally. It's really, all of our work is done in partnership, really across the board. And it's when you commit to doing something forever, you need to know that people are going to be around to follow through. And so we have a lot of partnerships with cities and townships and municipality, counties. We have partnerships with private nonprofits and 225 conservation easements as well. So we work with a lot of different people, as well as the Brownstone Trail in particular. We have a trails group up there that has been really key to helping to maintain portions of the trail. I could talk about the Brownstone for the next hour, but you probably aren't here for that. So, yeah.
So then when it's purchased, then it'll be owned by the Landmark Conservancy?
Yes, that's a good question. There's a little more information as far as, future possibilities on our website, but we are prepared to own it indefinitely. However, we have also had conversations as far as like if the city or the county should express an interest in the future in owning it. That's a very common thing as far as the way that we work. We've conveyed properties. Sometimes we'll own something for 10 minutes and we'll convey it to a town or a county. And sometimes we'll own it for 10 years or more. And so the restrictions of the grants, in particular the DNR grant that we've already secured, but some of the additional public money that we're looking at, the acceptance of those grant funds assures that the property will stay open to the public in the future under whatever ownership it may have. So we would not, for example, be allowed to turn around and sell it in 10 years and fund our retirements or something like that. It will remain in public hands.
So developers won't be able to get a hold of it.
Correct.
And the city couldn't develop it.
No, correct. Yeah. However, speaking of development, the Knowles Nelson Stewardship Grant program has a couple of different types of grants, and this is the most broad as far as allowances. Like we could have a paved trail, or we could have a pavilion, or we could have a bathroom. Some of the grants don't allow that level of development.
Can we have a couple campsites?
So, but this one does allow the maximum amount of, like if we wanted to put in a couple of visitor amenities, like what I've just rattled off, or, it does allow for some of those things. Yeah. You can ask Rick a question. Give him something hard.
I just want to add, when I talked with Israel, I don't know, probably it was during COVID, so it was April of 2020 or March of 2020, and we've been talking ever since. And it's like what became really, what became really apparent was, the number of amenities this project has. We look at a lot of projects that come in the door through all sorts of venues, individuals and communities and partner groups. And right off the bat, what struck me is, we've got ecology. Kristen mentioned some of the different ecological attributes about the property. We've got recreation. We've got history. We didn't even talk about the history of Pine Coulee that goes back, 100, 150 years. We've got the opportunity to engage the community, and we've got a partnership that's thriving that exists, with a couple nonprofits, the National Park Service, for Pete's sake, municipalities, the school district. It's got everything that we look for in a project. Rare do we find a project that's got this many things going on. So I think it's an amazing opportunity for Landmark, and I hope everybody here feels it's an amazing opportunity to work with us as well. So it's got a lot going for it.
So like zone 1 and zone 2, if zone 1 is potentially up for sale, I mean, is there any potential or?
I spoke with Rick Spacuzza a couple weeks ago, actually. Ed and I were at the chamber, the Prescott Chamber, talking about this project. And one of the things that we can do if the zone 1 or a portion of zone 1 should change hands is we can work with the city, or we can work directly with, I guess, I'm not sure how it would transpire, but we like, for example, the Brownstone Trail is made up of trail easements. And so there are ways where you can put an easement on a property that goes into different ownership, where it might be for a period of time, or it could be in perpetuity as well. And so if it turns out that this sale goes forward, and it could be that we work with the city and the school district to put trail easements in place that would allow for public access through the property, even as it would be then owned in private hands.
Have you looked at like zone 2 to see if there's any potential, because that has a lot more topography and stuff?
We have.
I mean, I know you
Yep.
have, but I mean, I could like.
We're focused on Pine Coulee. We are, our goal is conservation, and we're supportive of the vision of building bike trails, but we can't use a significant amount of our staff energy to build bike trails. We really just are going to be working in partnership so that they can build the bike trails.
Well,
That's what I'm
and just getting to your question, we have actually talked with Landmark about some of the other areas, and hopefully I'm not over speaking here by saying this, but zone 4 is the most ecologically strategic area out of all of these areas. Everywhere else is disturbed. But there are portions of zone 4 that are relatively undisturbed. We got buckthorn, but we have relatively undisturbed areas that are resistant to the climate change. And so I think that was a big factor for Landmark. You guys can speak to that in where Landmark puts their energy
That's kind of
versus us.
There'd be any potential for that.
In zone 4 or zone 2?
In zone 2.
Two.
Oh,
Could be, but
I mean,
Could
it
be.
hasn't been developed or anything.
Right.
we just got our hands full with the $500,000 we have to
Right,
raise
right,
for
right.
zone 4.
Yeah,
So-
it's kind of a capacity issue,
Years,
but
I feel like-
if someone came through with the funds, it would be something we could consider owning.
Question?
Is the concept of this always going to be trails, or are you ever going to open up where you would have parking lots and picnic areas and people could get in there that aren't hikers? And
We'll have a small parking area. We try
I
to,
meant, not just on the edges, because, I'm a senior. I don't want to be cut off at the time that maybe I can't do a 10-mile hike,
Mhm.
Well, maybe I could just address that, or one of you guys, because that's the beauty of the overall trail system. So we have Magee Park that you heard Jared and Veronica talking about. And if you want, you could go back to the Magee Park concept plan. That was right at the beginning.
I'm
of
gonna
Jared's
just scroll.
slides.
We're a small group. We can
Yeah,
scroll.
just, so
I know McGee's.
So Magee, so this would be and we'll have 88 connected trails, and I appreciate it because I had hip reconstruction this summer and I couldn't get around. And I was like, I can't even walk the trails that I'm trying to build.
This one?
No,
Let's see here.
More?
Down a couple
The
more.
animated,
Okay.
The animated green one.
That one right there,
This
if you want to blow that up to just present mode. So what we're envisioning is that Magee Park would be a trailhead that would give you easy access. And that also on the zone 4 property, you'd be able to park and have accessible trails. We want these trails to be open to everyone. This isn't 10 miles worth of trail that you'd be hiking just to get to Magee, just to get to some of the beautiful areas in Pine Coulee. You might have 3/4 of a mile on paved or gravel accessible trails in order to be able to experience some of that space.
So, and if you guys want, am I representing accurately what we're envisioning for Zone 4?
Yeah.
For Pine Coulee Nature Preserve?
Yeah, but I remember hiking with my children, we'd leave Prescott, walk all the way to the Coulee, walk all the way to where the Prescott High School is now, and then back home. But it was a 10-mile hike.
Yeah, and we're envisioning up to 14 miles of trails.
And so, and you talked about ADA accessibility, but I just wondered if there ever is going to be any plan to open it up to some kind of parking inside of the Pine Coulee area instead of
I
just.
would say
trail
someday if
access.
we can get access off the highway, you know, that'll take some doing. I think it's all possible.
Because I don't think a lot of people visit parks unless they can park.
Right.
I can say this, that for picnicking, so my husband's had 5 ortho surgeries and I've had 1 so far. And we love to hike and we love to picnic, but if we can walk it, we can't carry all our stuff
Right.
just to go have a picnic. So if we get a mile down a trail and we have a picnic, it's like, oh no, now we gotta walk back and all this stuff. So unless we've got a shuttle to pick us up, we tend to stay away from those picnic spots
Yeah.
because it's just too much.
That's the exact reason that we pursued the state grant that we did, because as Kristen said, most of the grants that we use can purchase wild land that the grant contract or restrictions won't let us do much to it, except the hiking trail. This will allow parking areas, bathrooms, paved trails, you know, things like that, because half the property's in the city limits. So there's going to be those needs. Whereas if you're 40 miles from town in northern Wisconsin, there isn't much of a need. There's not that much of a demand for use.
Oh, there'll be demand.
Definitely, yeah. So we thought it would have been foolish to go for the normal pot of DNR money that we go after for projects like this, because it just wouldn't allow the level of infrastructure that this is going to demand being located where it is.
Well, this has been fantastic. We're going to stick around. If anybody has additional questions, I'm here, and the rest of us will be sticking around as well, but we do want to respect your time and thank you for coming tonight.
We do have some maps and handouts out in the other space as well.
Don't forget to sign up,
Yep.
because Landmark is our key partner here. And for Coulee River Trails, our most important priority is getting Pine Coulee. So everything that we still have to work on other parts of the project because we don't want to lose anything. We want to keep all this connected. But our primary focus right now is on Pine Coulee. So thank you, Landmark, for being here. And we would not even really, this project would, I'm not sure that it would actually exist without Landmark and their partnership. We probably would have fizzled out by now if we didn't have their level of support. So thank you, Landmark. And thank you, everybody, for coming.